Hey friends, welcome back to Sunday Supper. So today I am making my take on an Asian dish. So instead of doing broccoli and beef, where you would chop up some steak or maybe a roast if you had it, I am actually going to use ground beef. This is like the inexpensive version of broccoli and beef. But I add some extras to it. I like to put mushrooms in there and ginger and a little bit of lime and some green onions. I'm kind of trying to use up what I have in my fridge anyway. So I am going to go ahead and whip this together and have a great conversation with you today as I am in the kitchen cooking. So come along and join me today for Sunday supper. So today was an awesome day at church. We had our associate pastor preaching today because our pastor and his wife are on a trip right now. They travel and attend additional classes and ministry events and stuff and preach at other churches. So, and they always have such great stuff to bring to us when we come back, something that they learned or something they experienced. So we miss them, but we're always happy to have our associate pastor preach as well because he's amazing. He always brings a really good word. And this Sunday, I felt like it was a much needed word that he brought on relationship and community and fellowship and just how important it is to be a part of the body of Christ. That, the body can't function if all the pieces aren't there and all the parts aren't there and aren't working. So he was encouraging us this Sunday to actually engage with the body of Christ and create community and be a part of community, because a lot of people join churches and they don't feel like they belong. They don't feel like they fit in. They honestly, when you join a church and you see all the people are there, you just think that, wow, I don't have it all together and I don't want them to know my business. I don't want them to know how sinful and horrible that I am, and we kind of pull away from the church. And when you do that, you pull away from the community and fellowship in the church, which you would be surprised will help you come closer to God. Because what I have learned is that there is no better way to overcome or break chains off of you is when you can come together with another member of the body of Christ and share that experience. Share that sinful thing that you experienced or something you're going through or a trauma that you just can't seem to move past. When you can bring that to a true fellow Christian, one that you can trust, because that is very important, that when you take these things to someone, it has to be somebody you can trust. And let's face it, that's hard to find in a church, because I know that being part of a church and being part of a very large church, people gossip. We are human and we are so flawed and just so full of imperfection that finding that one person that you can take your private things to, the worst of the worst, the biggest mess of the mess, and share it with them and actually receive, a good word from them, help, healing, prayer, you really have to look for that trusted person. I found that in some really great friends at church. These were people that I served with on the greeter team. They were my leaders on the greeting team, and later they became my mentors. One became a business mentor, and honestly, she's been the best friend I have ever had my entire life. The other one became a spiritual mentor, and she's like a mama to me. Of course, we're more on that friends level. I could never call her mama, but she was the one that had the life experience, and she was able to pull me back in when I was ready to just bail on all of it and just say, I can't do this anymore. So she had wonderful things to share with me and say, hey, life is better. Keep going. I also had another spiritual mentor, which was more of that mother figure. She and her husband both were deacons in the church, and they were very willing to take Joe and I under their wings and really help us work through relationship issues and family trauma. And they have been such a blessing. All of these people, although we have moved from Florida and now live in a completely different state, we still talk to them. We still touch base. They're still there encouraging us and praying for us. So we were all very blessed to find those people in our lives. But I never would have met them if I hadn't started serving at the church. You know, I would have completely missed it and just walked by them and went right in the sanctuary and listened to the message and then left. So if I had never stopped to serve at the church and get to meet people working in the body of Christ, I would have missed out on friendships that changed my life. I mean, that led me closer to God and pointed out that these are God moments, and this is God helping you, and this is God cleaning up the mess. And yes, it's painful, but we're telling you, let's walk through this and we'll go through it with you, because it is better on the other side of the pain. And I mean, honestly, I am who I am today because I met these wonderful women and men in our life, our family, because they didn't just help me. They didn't just become friends with me. These people became members of my family. They're very, very close to us. They're important to us. These are people that I would like drop everything, get in the car and travel back to Florida to help. They're friends for life. So I really connected with the pastor this weekend when he started talking about fellowship and relationships in the church. And he also touched on that whole, finding that consistent person, the real person, that person that takes time out to build a relationship with you so that you can trust that person. You can't just go with the first person that talks to you at church and you're like, oh, this is my life, blah, 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 blah. Every once in a while you meet that great person. But I just so connected with what he was saying this weekend. And of course I wanted to share it with you while we're doing Sunday supper. It is absolutely beautiful here today. It's like 74. It's that perfect temperature outside. There's this wonderful breeze. I mean, I wish I could have cooked out on the grill today because I would much rather be standing outside. But, it's just Hannah and myself tonight. Unfortunately, Joe did have to work. It happens sometimes on a Sunday. And Mia is with her grandfather, so it's Hannah and I. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to whip this up. It'll be something her and I can enjoy. I can't say this is Mia's and Joe's favorite. It's one of those more healthier dinners. And sometimes they hold out for that traditional Southern food where I've smothered and covered and fried something, but we've been trying to be really good with eating a lot healthier. So I am going to go ahead and brown up some ground beef in my cast iron skillet back here. I'm probably due to do another Butcher Box review or haul for you guys. It's been a while. I have been exclusively getting our beef from them unless I order it locally from a farmer. We push in 5 years now. So we started just before 2020. I was already doing the ordering of the beef and or ordering of the meat and doing the grocery pickup from the grocery store before it became a big thing. And let me wash my hands real quick. I am getting ready to chop up some veggies. So when COVID happened, I was already used to doing all the shopping and such online and picking up everything from the grocery store. So we really didn't, have any issues with not being in the stores. Speaking of that, I'm sure all of you remember what that was like. It was a very different thing to experience. During that time, we had actually just joined our church in November of 2021. November of 2020. Yes, so November of 2020. I'm trying to think back. As I'm getting older, I can't remember numbers and such as well. Yeah. So we joined the church in November of 2020, and I just started a group, and oh wait, no, that can't be right. Is that right? No, we'd been there a year. So we would have started, we moved in 2018. We tried another church for a year. So we started in that church in November of 2019. And then after that, I had started serving at the church. So by 2021, we already had the new friends and things that we had met and built a community. And I was serving on a team because I was a leader at that point. And that helped a lot, because we would have these, even though we may have been doing church online, or we were doing smaller services and services where we spaced the chairs out pretty far. The church was really big on still having community and meeting, even if it was out in the parking lot, as much as we could. So we were still doing our weekly leader meetings. So we would all get on Zoom and we could still talk to everybody and see faces and, share with everybody what was going on. I know a lot of us had been laid off or were working from home. So that was a crazy time, but wow, was it good to have a community to back us. And especially when Katie turned 16, man, 16. So she turned 16 in May, and we offered to do a birthday party. I said, you know what? We live in Florida. We were still allowed to meet in groups. I said, we'll hold it out at the beach, and we'll meet, and whoever wants to come can come. And she was like, no, I don't want to do that. She had a whole different idea of what she wanted her 18th birthday to be. But her friends from the church and her friends from school and friends that she had made at youth group in a completely different church, came in just this big long line of cars, and they visited and dropped off gifts. And it was really awesome. I love that we had built that kind of community in such a short period of time, because people just don't talk to their neighbors anymore. People really keep to themselves and just don't walk over to their neighbor and say, hey, hi, I'm your neighbor. They just don't do it. We were there 6 years, and I think we talked to our neighbors a handful of times, and it just, we never hung out with our neighbors or anything. Our youngest played with the kids that were catty corner from us. What? Okay. She played with the kids that were kind of catty corner from us. That was a rental. And we had a airline attendant that lived across from us, a retired veteran that lived on the other side of us, and then an engineer and a stay-at-home mom that lived behind us. She had a special needs son, so that was awesome, because we got to talking about Mia and things that maybe she could, find as far as resources and things. But, that's because we were okay with talking to our neighbors. But none of them knew the other people in the neighborhood, and these people had been there since like 2007. So 10 years and more, and they'd never talked with any other their neighbors. Crazy. And I'm like, why don't we do that anymore? I remember that when we played outside, like I played with all the neighborhood kids. We like met down at the park, and we were there all day. Even when I went to my friend's house, she knew everybody in the neighborhood. It didn't matter if they were 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks away. We all hung out together. And nobody talks to each other anymore. Everybody is at home. You don't see kids playing outside. Just kind of, it's kind of a bummer. Let's go ahead and throw some garlic in this too. I need to use up what few garlic cloves I have left. It is definitely a grocery week. Like, it is slim pickings in our kitchen right now, but I am trying my best to use up everything that I can in the fridge before I'm making a trip to the grocery store. So that sometimes calls for a little creativity with dinner. This garlic's bad, so I got one. We got one. But we're getting closer and closer to Christmas, and that means I won't have the garden, to provide those fresh vegetables for us anymore, which means I'll be going to the grocery store to get those fresh veggies that I might need for things. That's okay, but that's usually when I start tightening up the spending. Christmas coming, we have birthdays back to back. Mia's and, my November baby, and Hannah and I are January babies. Joe's a March baby, so it's kind of all happening in there. We also have Mia's graduation coming up. My baby is turning 18, and I am keeping her one more year in school, but it's not like I didn't register her. I didn't send my letter of intent in for her. Mia is doing a life skills year. As soon as she turns 18, we are going to enroll her in an adult day program, and then I will actually do her graduation next spring. Definitely a plus when you are homeschooling, and definitely a plus when you are homeschooling a special needs child. So Mia was never going to graduate with a diploma, like a standard diploma that you would get. That requires her to do standardized testing. Mia was never going to do standardized testing. They opted to go ahead and waive all of those and just pass her through school. So they were going to give her a certificate of completion. Mama can do that right here at home, and we can make sure she's learning everything that she needs to know for her to live on her own or with somebody successfully. So those are kind of things that schools just can't teach, and they don't teach. But I promise I'm not going to get on my homeschool soapbox. Probably, oh, I need a big lid. I wish I had started sooner with her. but I didn't know. And I needed to educate myself about how to homeschool and what it was before I started it. I just used up my last bag of fresh frozen broccoli from our garden. So that was my last one. That's going to go in dinner tonight. And then I have some, I'm going to serve this over cauliflower rice. So great rice substitute if you're trying to stay away from grains or additional carbs. That is perfect. So I'm just kind of steaming the broccoli back here. This is on low, and I've thrown some mushrooms in there and a little bit of garlic, some salt. We're going to grate up some fresh ginger. Where's my ginger? Fresh ginger. I did get, this is the ginger. If you guys watch my Azure Standard hauls, this is the ginger that I got from Azure. And if you don't watch my Azure Standard hauls, I'll put a link up here in the corner and you can hop over there after this video and check out the Azure Standard hauls. I have been loving the produce that I get from Azure. Not only is it organic, it seems to last a whole lot longer than what I'm picking up in the grocery store. So definitely appreciate that. Let me get my grater. So I use a small planed grater, or you can use a zester to do this. I put it in at the end, and then we're also going to do some coconut aminos. This is something else I also pick up from Azure. Theirs has been the most affordable. So I can get a bigger bottle for the same amount of money as I would if I was to go and pick up a smaller bottle at the grocery store. So this is going to replace the soy sauce, or if we were going to do teriyaki or something, I would use this in its place. It is not salty like soy sauce. This is a little sweeter, which, you know, if you're somebody who is trying to avoid sugar, you know, this kind of helps. But this has 7 grams of sugar per tablespoon. So this is going to go in that tonight. It's got a sodium count on here, 450. But no soy. This is fresh organic coconut sap and salt. So we're going to throw that in there with our green onions. I love that this comes together so fast. This is one of those quick, like 20, 30-minute meals you can just kind of throw together. And if you already have your vegetables prepped, it just goes together that much quicker. And I really don't have to dirty anything else other than this pan, which is great. Less dishes for me. So, as I was talking to you guys about church and relationships and fellowship and stuff, if you guys already attend church, I'm sure you know what serving is when you serve in a group on a church, or small groups, or those groups that meet up together throughout the week. And it might be a Bible study or like a ladies get together. We used to do like a mom's night out. And they even have some for like couples. I've done several Bible studies, and I used to lead a financial group. So we followed the Dave Ramsey program, and I went ahead and started teaching that at our church, which is, I mean, that was great. Who doesn't love financial freedom? But that's kind of where I found my comfort in the church, getting to know people instead of just going to church and sitting in a pew and not talking to anyone, or only talking to the people that you know. It really helped me step outside my little box and move past the fear that I have. I've got quite a bit of social anxiety. You would never know that. I get on here and talk, and I serve at church, and I speak at events, and but I have some challenging social anxiety. So it just depends on what it is, and I have worked very hard to overcome that, and I have only been able to overcome that by taking it to the Lord and saying, I don't want this fear anymore. I want to be able to function. I want to be able to go to the grocery store and make it through the grocery store without having a panic attack. I want to be able to talk to people and help people, because to have all this information that you may have learned doing something and not be able to share it with somebody to help them because you're so terrified to speak to someone, it makes you feel like a horrible person. I know I did. Like, I went through real estate classes. Everybody kept saying, you'll make a great realtor. They didn't see the social anxiety in me. Nobody knew about that. My mom was aware of it, but it was something that I hid quite well. And I was always the quiet one in the group, the nice one, the friendly one, the helpful one, but I didn't really talk unless I was talked to. And my first husband, my late husband, he was the social butterfly, the class clown, the one who entertained everybody. He talked to everyone. There was no place that we could go. If we went on vacation out of state, I guarantee you he would run into someone he knew. And I just don't know how that was possible. But every place we went, he made friends. And he was totally okay with you not wanting to be his friend, but he was going to be friendly to you anyways. So, and how, we got together and got married, and I'm this quiet, reserved, just doesn't really talk much person. And now I'm a little bit more on the, what do you call those people? Extroverted instead of an introvert, which honestly, I'm 100% an introvert. If I need to be an extrovert, that I can only do with Jesus, honestly. To be able to just kind of get out there and do and talk. Sometimes I just stumble over my words and I get super nervous. And it used to freak me out. I had sweaty hands all the time, which didn't help with that social anxiety. I was like, please, please don't shake my hand. Because who wants to shake a sweaty hand? I got picked on all through high school. Even my friends complained about it, and they didn't realize what they were doing by constantly pointing out something I was very, very self-conscious about. But, I turned it into a joke at that point. And I'm sure if you're somebody who's been bullied in school or picked on, we know how to skirt around it. We crack the joke first. We make the apology first. We're the ones that say, oh, hang on, let me wipe my hands off. They're all clammy and sweaty before I shake your hand. Ha ha ha. We make the fat joke first, so that, that uncomfortableness is kind of removed. That definitely didn't help growing up. Being a kid is rough, but where's my squeezer? I didn't realize that it was a nervous thing. I just thought that I had sweaty hands and it was something I was going to have all my life. Come to figure out, no. Subconsciously, I was nervous. I was having panic attacks and my body was reacting while my brain was, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Something I learned from my parents is how to get through a very challenging time without expressing or showing any kind of emotion. Most definitely not healthy. Going with the flow of it, getting it done, and nobody knows that you are angry, upset, sad, happy. You're just walking through the process to get it done. Kind of like being numb to what's going on around you, but you're still moving through the process. I totally mastered that skill in high school. So being a young adult, that's how I was functioning. It was horrible. And then everybody knew that when I went silent, something was really wrong. But after overcoming those fears, and the only way I was able to do that was I sat down one day and I'm like, God, I am tired of being scared. I don't want to be scared anymore. I want to be able to function in the real world. Make me comfortable with being uncomfortable. And when the pastor called to say, hey, you signed up to serve on a team, where do you think you'll fit in best? I said, where can I meet the most people? Where would I be in a position where I could meet a lot of the people in church? And he's like, oh, that's great. You'll be a greeter. We'll stick you right at the front door so that you have to shake hands and meet all these people coming in. Within 3 months, that fear was gone. I talked to everyone, shaked hands. My hands were no longer sweaty. All of that anxiety and fear, it went away. And honestly, psychologically, if you look at it, if you want to overcome a fear, you have to overcome the fear, as in do the process. And so I did the process and it worked. And it changed my life. I began to teach classes and speak to people and organize events at the church and lead groups, not just a group, but groups of people. And people were coming to me for, advice and direction. And I'm like, I am so not qualified for this. And the joke at church was, when they would see me coming, they would be like, oh, look, here comes the boss lady. Because they're like, well, you look like a boss, but I don't have the disposition of a boss. So, I'm the how you doing and hug you and how's your family and do you need anything and I'm checking on you. Is everything okay? I'm not a point and direct unless I have a project that has to be done in a short period of time. So when we would do setup, then I was pointing and directing. I could have a conversation with you, but I'm like, hey, let's pick that up and we're going to walk and talk at the same time. Let's go and get stuff done. But, yeah, I don't think I would be the person here today doing this, if I had not, found community and fellowship in my church. And what's really great is when I was able to share that story with other people and share that with my pastor, it's something that encourages other people. When you see someone and you're like, wow, they have so much potential and they have this thing inside of them that is bursting to get out, but the fear is stopping them from moving forward. And you can share your story with them and literally watch someone bloom and grow and move towards what their destiny is, what their purpose in life is, and change their lives simply because you overcame something and then shared it with them. And it wouldn't have happened had I not decided to serve at the church, to, make friends, build a community. So every time the church goes on I'm going to call it their spiel, about serving and community, fellowship, small groups, joining the church, being an active member, showing up for Wednesday Bible study. They're not just doing it to say, you got to do this. We want your money. You got to do this. You have to be a part of this to be a good Christian. You got to show up and do all this stuff. It sounds like that coming from the pulpit, but that's not what they mean. They are literally directing you towards the floodgate of finding something that could give you great meaning and purpose to your life, a community, friendship, in some cases, marriage, since a lot of my friends have met their significant others in church. But, I've seen so much happen in people's lives inside the church that once they join the team and they're like, oh, I don't think I can do this. I can't pray for people. I'm not qualified for this. I've had some people tell me I'm not clean enough to do this. I'm still really messed up. I can't do this. And then watch them serve and pour into other people their stories and their testimonies. And then other people in exchange pour into them and say, man, I've been there too. Let me tell you what I did and how to direct your path. And you can literally see families change. Not just one individual, but families. And I mean, it's mind-blowing. So now every time somebody tells me, or asks me, why do you serve at church? What do you get out of it? Man, I get to watch God do his work. I get to physically see it with my eyes. And there is no better way to explain to somebody when they say, well, you can't see God, so how do you know he's real? I have to know that he's real because I see him doing work right in front of me. Right in front of me, changing people's lives. But you have to place yourself in the position to receive that. God can do his work anywhere he wants to. He really can. And I always tell people, if you want to take your path and take the longabout road around the hard path and hit all the rocks and the mountains and bumpity and life is just a real pain in the butt. You want to take that path around? Go for it. God will let you. That is your preparation time to get you to that point where you're ready to receive what he has for you. He'll totally let you do that. I did it. I absolutely took the longest roundabout way to get where I am today. I wish I hadn't done it, but I'm so glad I did because of the preparedness that happened to place me where I am today. If I hadn't gone through that, I don't know that I would have been prepared to receive what I needed to receive in this season of my life. And, when you can sometimes jump in front of somebody and say, hey, I've walked this path and I took this long trek, 30 plus years to get to where I am today. Let me interject here and share with you what God can do for you in this season instead of you walking your path your way and then him preparing you and you're ready to receive him in another season. So, okay, this is pretty much done. I have everything. Yeah, broccoli's cooked. I guess there's no better way to tell than just to squeeze you a broccoli. Everything is cooked, smells good. I think I am going to add, if you want a little bit more sauce in this, add some beef broth to it, some bone broth. I didn't thaw any. I've got chicken broth in there, but I don't want to mess that up. So do some beef broth in there, then add your coconut aminos, and it'll give you a nice sauce in the bottom of it. That way while this is cooking, it cooks down. I don't want to dump this whole jar in there simply because I want sauce at the bottom. That wouldn't be good. But, so there's that. And then we have our cauliflower. You can do one of two things. You can warm this up in the microwave, warm this up in a pan, one of three things. The pan, the microwave, or you can do what I do, which is dump it all in here. Because why dirty another bowl? So we'll put all this in here. Oop, a little bit more. And really, the cauliflower just needs to warm up. There isn't really any cooking that needs to happen. So, do that. Steam that up a little bit. Yummy, yummy. Okay. It may not look pretty, but it sure does taste good. And I like mine with a few extra green onions on top and a squeeze of lime. So guys, that's Sunday supper for you. We have my version of broccoli and beef going on back here. Definitely cheaper than doing steak. Throw some ground beef in there. And this is going to be our supper tonight for Hannah and I. And guys, I thank you for joining me today. I'm really hoping that you'll like these new Sunday suppers that I am doing on Sundays. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while. I just wasn't sure how I was going to approach it. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me in my kitchen today for great conversation. And as always, guys, I bless you on your journeys, and I thank you for joining me on mine.